Stepsons, today I'm going to show you how to spray weed killer. In our yard, in different areas, we've got things like these that are especially bad. This little sucker right there turns into what we call a goat head. And for whatever reason, this year we've got a bumper crop. So I'm going to show you how to mix and spray weed killer, not only here, but everywhere you've got weeds growing that you don't want to grow. All right, so for this one, again, this happens to be Roundup, a well-known brand of weed killer that just basically kills everything. When you get it in a bottle like this happens to be a concentrate, so you mix it with water. To figure out how much, you're going to read on the back side, and a lot of these have the built-in instructions kind of hidden in a book right here that just sticks at the side and you pull that open. For this, you mix 6 ounces, which they provide the cup that has a 6 mark on it, so basically it's one of these full for every gallon of water. This happens to be a gallon pressure sprayer. When I mix ingredients, I like to start with a little bit of moisture in the bottom rather than put the chemical in the bottom and then add the water to it. So I've preloaded this with about just a little bit of water in the bottom. I'll put the 6 ounces in and then we'll go fill it up to the gallon mark, which is here. Notice that when you do, it has room for air. This kind of a sprayer, after you put it in, you pump air pressure into it, and that's what gives it the pressure to come out through the bottom, and then you just walk around and spray it with the nozzle, squeezing the trigger here. All right, let me show you just a little bit more about this little pressure sprayer. You can get them in bigger sizes too. You probably don't want to put fertilizer in the same one that you use weed killer for. So if you're going to spray a liquid fertilizer, you'd get a separate one to do that with, or you just need to make sure you rinse it out really well before you switch from weed killer to fertilizer. I only use this for weed killer. So it has this, which is the air pump. This is like a bike pump. It pumps air into that, which gives the pressure for pushing the fluid out through this when you squeeze this. One problem we've had with this sometimes is the nozzle will get clogged. So one thing that you may have to do for maintenance is just unscrew this and make sure there's no crud stuck in the nozzle. Some of these pieces come out, like this one will come out, and you can, you don't necessarily want to put your lips on it and blow through it because it's weed killer. But you can take a little fine point needle screwdriver and make sure all that's cleared out first if you have clogs. The other thing is how tight you tighten this down will determine how much the spray comes out. So if you want a straight jet more than a spread out one, then you screw it down or unscrew it accordingly. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put the 6 ounces of Roundup in. Actually, this has been on the shelf all winter. I'm going to shake it up a little bit first, and then I'm going to put the 6 ounces in. Let that drain just a little bit as it goes in there, and we'll set that aside to dry out. Now we'll go put the rest of the water in to fill it up to the gallon mark. Then we'll put this in and pressurize it. Okay, now we've got the water level up to the right amount. We've got the Roundup in there. I'm going to screw this in, and that seals it. This part has to be screwed down tightly too, and it already is. And then it's just like a bike pump. We're going to pump it with air pressure, and it'll get harder as you go. When it's mostly full, it runs out of pressure faster because there's not as much volume as air for you to compress. So I'm going to keep going and get as much in there as I can. And then for this one, if you turn it like that, it locks. It locks, so now you can pick it up and it's not sliding. So now, let's see. And now we can go around and spray all the weeds. When you're spraying, one thing to keep in consideration is wind. You don't want it to spray somewhere where you don't intend it to go. There's a very slight breeze right now. It's not bad, but I'll hold this close to the ground when I spray and that way it just goes where I want. One other thing to keep in mind when you're going to spray is the forecast. If it looks like it's going to rain, or particularly if rain is in the forecast in the next 24 hours, usually you don't want to put it down. But check the label because it will tell you. Some of it's effective after 15 minutes, it will claim, but you don't want to run the risk of you spraying weed killer and then it raining an hour later and washing all the weed killer off, and then you've wasted all the weed killer. So watch the forecast too. Okay, so we've sprayed the weeds, we've got it there, we haven't used it all, so we've got some left in the bottom of the tank. The challenge we have with this is if we leave it with pressure in, sometimes we would leave it in the garage and there would be a puddle at the end of the nozzle because there's some residual pressure. So when you're done spraying, you want to take the pressure off. You can do that one of two ways. Either loosen this valve or loosen this one. I'm going to go ahead and just loosen the top, and you can hear that breathe the pressure out. Turn it slowly until it's all out, and so now there's no more pressure inside. So now I'm just going to let this sit in the garage. I'll screw it back down, but I know there's no pressure on the inside so that it won't be pushing more weed killer out through the hose after I stick it in the garage. So that's the process of using a pressure tank like this with a concentrate, mixing it and spraying your weeds to kill the weeds. All right, a couple last things. You're never done until you've cleaned up. So we're going to put away the stuff we got out for this. Always remember that. And always remember the two lessons, the two messages from every video. You can succeed even though your dad may not be in your daily life. And always remember your stepdad loves you. I'll see you on the next video. Something that you can actually put on your chores chart if you want. This is bad. Stop it.
I thought you were ready.
When the car's done driving by.